Welcome to Tea Time with Alice. I'm Alice, and today I am drinking Trader Joe's Harvest Blend Herbal Tea. It's got cinnamon, ginger, hibiscus, apple, and some other flavors. It's very, autumn themed. I did put a teaspoon of honey in here to sweeten it because I like using honey in the more spicy herbal teas. And I have a little bit of a funny story about Trader Joe's. So I haven't physically been inside a Trader Joe's store in about 10 years. But this is the second Trader Joe's brand tea I have featured on one of my tea time videos because people keep giving them to me. And I also live very close to a Trader Joe's, so I should probably go there sometime and check out their tea selection since I've liked the ones I've been gifted. I wouldn't say that they're anything fancy. They're in tea bags, they're not loose leaf. They're, pretty, I imagine moderately priced. So nothing really fancy as far as tea goes, but if you want something quick and easy and pretty tasty for what it is, these have been good so far. So I'm enjoying that. I had originally wanted to try a pumpkin tea for this time. I've had a couple of pumpkin teas in the past and haven't been displeased with them, but I feel like they're not quite at the level that I want. Like there's potential, but I want them to be like spicier or richer or more pumpkin-y, and I haven't gotten that yet in a pumpkin tea. So I haven't done that for this video, but maybe in a future video I can try out a pumpkin tea that's really good. So it's spooky season. We're officially in the middle of October. As I had mentioned in a previous video, I feel like spooky season is more than just Halloween season. To me, it is basically the entire season of fall. And in Texas, my favorite season of the year was springtime because it was cool but not hot, sometimes warm, but still not hot. There was usually a breeze and there were lots and lots of flowers. And every now and then it rained, which gave you some reprieve from the warming temperature. It was just really nice. I liked the smell of it. I liked taking walks. But so far in Washington, my favorite season is definitely fall. And I feel like this is the fall that I was missing in Texas. The leaves are turning all sorts of beautiful colors. They're falling from the trees. It's cool outside. It feels good to wear sweaters. It's rained a couple times, but it's been sunny quite a bit. So it's been really, really nice to spend time outside. You can smell it in the air, all of like the spicy, fall scents of, decaying leaves, I guess. And so even though it's really like wholesome and cozy feeling, there's this sense of like things are dying around you. They're literally dying. Like the leaves that are falling to the ground, they're dead. So on that note, I feel like for this Halloween time, I'm kind of realizing and embracing this, what's the word I'm looking for? Like merging of elements of darkness and horror and spookiness and eeriness with elements of wholesomeness and coziness and fun and sweetness. And these things just blend together really, really well. And I've noticed that not just in nature, but also in the activities that we are doing. And for spooky season, you like to do spooky things. And especially around Halloween time, because Halloween is such a festive holiday. Like, I don't know what I mean by festive. I think every holiday is festive in a sense, but Halloween feels a little bit more like community oriented, similarly to Yuletide, or that wintertime holidays, but obviously with the spooky element of it added in, as opposed to things, holidays like Valentine's Day. I feel is a little more personal. Some of the springtime holidays have community in them, but they feel a little, I don't know, more elusive. Whereas I feel like everyone really, really gets on board with this, and everyone wants to like do things together and share their fun with each other, and it just feels like there's a lot of like hype. And so the things that I've been doing, I've decorated my house. I've been, trying to make things smell nice in here, like cinnamony and clove, and dressing up and, getting more sweaters. And I've been reading some spooky books, and I've been watching some spooky movies. Now, in a lot of the horror books that I've read in the past, I didn't really feel scared. It takes a lot for a book to scare me, and it's usually when something more realistic happens. I'm not usually scared by paranormal stuff. So I've read vampire books, I've read, haunted house books, and they're fun and I like them. And they definitely give me vibes, but I don't feel like that sense of terror within me. But I'm reading a book right now that has been giving me that feeling. And what's funny about it, literally, is that it is marketed as a comedy horror. And it's not unfunny, like it's not unhumorous, but it's not really funny. It's not laugh out loud, at least not for me, not yet. We'll see how it goes. I'm still pretty early into it, but it is so weird and so bizarre that it's humorous, and it's kind of like it's almost like uncomfortable in a way that kind of makes me chuckle. And that is something that I've noticed a lot more with the like horror media that I've been consuming lately. So I have a couple friends who really like film and really like horror, and we've been watching movies with them. And so far we watched a handful of old classic movies based on literature or history. So we watched the 1931 Dracula with Bela Lugosi and the 1931 Frankenstein with Boris Karloff. We also watched The Mummy from 1932 with Boris Karloff, and have started a couple other movies that were also from that time. Black and white, very like theatrical acting style, like almost as though they're on stage. And I've noticed that some of the things that they do in the movies are very different from the way that they do them today. So when they're trying to like build tension and build suspense, and everything's going very slowly, and the villain is kind of creeping up on you, in those old movies, there's no background music. It's just silence. Whereas nowadays, if that was happening, there would be background music to kind of like help give that like eerie vibe and build the tension, and you'd hear the strings kind of building or like, swaying, and it's a very different dynamic. And so that was interesting to me to experience that. But also, some of those old movies, they feel so theatrical that it's almost like ridiculous. And I wonder if people that were watching them in the olden days, like when they first came out, were actually creeped out by it, because they are spooky. They're in black and white, so you don't have color. That already gives it sort of a stark, very contrasted visual. But also, like, sometimes they're just so bizarre that you kind of start feeling uncomfortable, even if it's not like actually realistically scary. Like, you don't actually think, a bat is gonna be flying outside your window and then try to come in and bite you. and turn you into a vampire. Maybe you think the bat part, but probably not the vampire part, unless you believe in vampires, which, sure, that might scare you more. I don't, so I'm not as scared by that in a realistic way, but seeing it, kind of gives me a little bit of like, ooh, that's creepy, like the way that he's like looking with his eyes. And also, oh, what was I gonna say? Yeah, so the book I'm reading right now is like so bizarre and weird that it's almost funny. And a scene in one of the films we watched reminded me of this. And it was from The Mummy, the 1932 version. And there's an archaeologist or a group of archaeologists, and they're excavating the site in Egypt, and they find a mummy, and there's some kind of curse on a scroll. Anyway, the two higher up archaeologists leave, and the more like regular, worker stays, and he's examining the scroll. And then the mummy comes to life and appears in front of this person and steals the scroll and walks away. And the archaeologist, is so freaked out that he just starts cracking up. Like, he's just laughing like hysterically. And it seems like he's like, ha ha ha, that's so funny, a mummy. But really he's like terrified and in shock. So I think that that is a just perfect example of this idea of like merging horror with humor. And I think that it's when you're in a time where things are dark and when things are happening that are mysterious and unexplainable and sometimes dangerous and life-threatening, even if they're not real, if there's just like this feeling that they could be real or that something could be out there. And when the world is changing and you're seeing literal death and decay in front of you, then having some sense of humor helps you to process that better. And I think that's why you see so much humor in horror and whimsy and in this time of year. This like, let's fight hauntings with candy, and let's make fun of this scary time. And yeah, I think that I've kind of noticed that, and I wonder if that's something we can do in the rest of the year, but in a different way. Not just the paranormal side of horror, but the actual horrors in our lives, the actual things that you're seeing that you're like, oh my gosh, that actually really does terrify me. How can you bring some levity to that? How can you learn to enjoy your life despite those things? And that's something that Halloween time can teach us, maybe. So on that note, I hope that you are having a good Halloween time and that you're able to find some joy and festivity in this time of year. And if you're in one of the more southern states and it's not as chilly or the leaves aren't turning colors as much, know that there is spookiness wherever you are. So even in Texas, there are creepy cactus plants out in the woods. There's, tons and tons of ghost stories from northern Mexico and even in South Texas. There's all sorts of ways to embrace spooky season, even if you don't have the same kind of weather that another part of the country has. So just know that, and try to find some joy in this time. And even after the month is over, it's still going to be a little spooky for the rest of the year until we get into the more jolly holidays, or the jollidays, as one might say. But anyway, that's all I've got for you today, and I'll see you next time.